Welcome to Bet Park Saturday, live from the Sportsbook at Parks Casino in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Jeff Skaversky, alongside my producer, Julia Hoff, taking you from 12 to 2. We have a jam-packed show today. We're going to be talking about the Eagles' new offensive brain trust. Zach Berman from The Athletic will join us in just a few moments to talk about that. Also, Phillies spring training just 2 weeks away. We're going to catch up with Phillies analyst on NBC Sports Philadelphia, Ben Davis. He will join the show at 12. A lot to talk about with the Sixers. Sixers play-by-play announcer Kate Scott will join the program to talk about Joel Embiid. Can this team make a run? And, of course, they will honor the 2001 team, Allen Iverson, and that amazing cast of characters that took the Sixers to the NBA Finals and eventually, of course, lost to Kobe Bryant. We're going to talk to Kate Scott in a second. And speaking of the Sixers, we have some breaking news that has just come in. Sixers star Paul George has been suspended 25 games for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy. Now, George, of course, has dealt with a variety of injury issues in recent years. He was limited to just 41 games last season, dealing with knee issues, groin, finger, all sorts of knee issues. It was the fifth time in really 6 years that he played fewer than 60 games. He's had a lot of injury issues, and he had, remember, that arthroscopic procedure on that left knee over the summer, and he was trying to work his way back. And this is a crushing blow, as we said. Paul George suspended 25 games, 25 of the final 35 games. So just as this team is starting to gel and playing better, and everyone's healthy, bam, kind of a punch to the gut once again for this team. And the whole season, you're just crossing your fingers that Joel Embiid's not going to get hurt. And they're going to be able to, to have that big three in Embiid and Maxey and Paul George all playing together and just coming together as one toward the playoffs. And now you have this, Paul George suspended, and this just coming in as well. He released a statement to ESPN that reads, quote, "Over the past few years, I have discussed the importance of mental health. And in the course of recently seeking treatment for an issue of my own, I made the mistake of taking improper medication. I take full responsibility for my actions and apologize to the Sixers organization, my teammates, and the Philly fans for my poor decision-making during this process." He went on to say, "I am focused on using this time to make sure that my mind and body are in the best condition to help the team when I return." So, again, Paul George suspended 25 games for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy. And sounds there from the statement that he took something to help him with some mental health stuff going on. He didn't get too specific on that. But so, in all intents and purposes, he's going to return with about 10 games left. And you have to wonder where the Sixers going to be sitting in the standings as you're missing Paul George, one of your staples of this team. And now you have to wonder, does it change things with the NBA trade deadline coming up? Will this team have to make a bigger move here with this in mind going on with Paul George? It is always something with this Sixers team. And man, you were just starting to have some hope. And we're going to talk to Kate Scott about the Sixers as a whole. And you were just feeling so good about the Sixers heading in this direction, thinking, okay, they can make this run in the East. And I'm not convinced that the Knicks or the Pistons or anyone else can be as successful as the Sixers. And the Sixers were wide open here. They just needed to stay healthy and stay on the court together. And now this, Paul George suspended. Unreal. It is always something with this team. All right. Let's talk about the Eagles. They finally have an offensive coordinator. Nope, it is not Mike McDaniel. It is not Brian Dable. It is Sean Mannion. It is not a sexy name, and you're probably wondering who. And when this all started with Kevin Patullo getting let go at the end of the playoff run when they lost, you were not thinking that Sean Mannion, many people didn't even know who he was. And so, yeah, Sean Mannion played in the NFL, backup quarterback. He was the quarterback's coach for the Packers, but he's never called plays. He's only 33 years old, not a ton of experience. And you just go, wait, what? This is who they came up with? But I would tell you, the Eagles said all along, we are going to cast a wide net. and listened to everybody, and they brought in a ton of people. And by no means is this a name, at least on paper, where you are, wow. And he may come from the Sean McVay tree and has worked under Kevin O'Connell and Kevin Stefanski, as well as everybody else you could possibly imagine that has had success in this league. But I would tell you, for anyone out there that's going to say, well, this is going to be a terrible hire, or this is going to be a great hire, has no idea what they're talking about. You don't. You just have no idea how this is going to work out. When the Eagles hired a quarterbacks coach in Andy Reid, you had no idea who Andy Reid was. Andy Reid had no experience, and Andy's going to go down as one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. Think about this, Doug Peterson, right? Doug Peterson, some people said out there that Doug Peterson was the worst hire during that entire coaching cycle. Doug Peterson won you a Super Bowl, okay? Think about Chip Kelly. Everyone loved Chip Kelly, right? And what happened with Chip Kelly? It was a disaster. So nobody knows how this is going to work out. Was Nick Sirianni on your mind when they let go of Doug Peterson and said, okay, we need to bring in another coach? Nobody knew who Nick Sirianni was. Nobody had any clue who Nick Sirianni was. There wasn't this huge excitement. There wasn't this big buzz over Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni won you a Super Bowl. He's been one of the most successful coaches in NFL history to start a career. He has had success like John Madden. You don't want to hear it because you see him day in and day out, and you may not want to believe it, but that is the truth of the matter. And so if anyone sits here and says this Sean Mannion hire is great, or someone that says this Sean Mannion hire is terrible, you don't know what you're talking about, okay? Because you weren't in those rooms with Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie and Nick Sirianni. And the other thing I would tell you is that Sean Mannion may be a brilliant mind, because we've heard that Kevin Patullo was very intelligent and had a great offensive mind. But if your team underperforms and you can't get the best out of your players, it doesn't matter how brilliant of a head coach or an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. It doesn't matter. And so when you think about this new Eagles brain trust, then you bring in Josh Grizzard. They bring in Josh Grizzard from Tampa Bay. He gets fired after 1 year as offensive coordinator down there. Are you really impressed with Josh Grizzard? And look, one of the things I would tell you is that he was also a pass game coordinator with the Bucs. You know, he did a nice job with Baker Mayfield. What he did a great job with was their third down conversions. The Bucs have been great for the last 2 years on third down. But, you know, he wasn't good enough to be the offensive coordinator of the Bucs and got fired one and done in Tampa Bay as the offensive coordinator. So on paper, when you look at it and take a step back, not overly impressive, but it doesn't have to be flashy. It doesn't have to be flashy like the casino lights and the bright lights and everything else like that. Can they have success with these guys? There needs to be some patience. At the same time, of course, there's not a lot of patience because this team is built to win right here, right now. But don't let anyone tell you that this is an amazing hire, and don't let anyone tell you that this is a terrible hire, because nobody knows. And we have to see the way this is going to play out, how Jalen Hurts is going to respond. Is A.J. Brown going to be here? How is this entire team going to come together and respond? But one of the things that this team really needs, of course, is this passing offense to be better. And can these two guys find a way to get it going? Sean Mannion has talked about footwork in the past and how important that is to the quarterback position and to throw the defense off with motion and this and that. So I think they're brilliant minds. We've heard Nick Foles talk about it. Former Eagles quarterback and Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles was a teammate of Mannion's in St. Louis. And he says he has a photographic memory and one of the most impressive rookies he's ever been around. And that's all fine and good. But until we see him in action, can he call plays? What is that dynamic like with Jalen Hurts and this offense and designing plays? But look, we'll find out, right? And we'll find out very quickly. But my point is, don't judge. Don't judge right now because we just don't know. And give it a second. Just give it a breathing second. Let's get more on this, on the new Eagles brain trust offensively from Zach Berman from The Athletic. Does a great job covering the Eagles, senior Eagles beat writer for The Athletic. Zach Berman, the author of 3 books, The Underdogs, The Franchise, and The Leap Year. Here's my conversation with Zach Berman about the Philadelphia Eagles' new hires on offense. Zach Berman, author of The Leap Year Obviously, a great book about the Eagles' championship run and Saquon Barkley and everything that transpired. I don't know if this is going to have a storybook ending. What the Eagles did, obviously, right now with their new brain trust. When you look at the moves that the Eagles made, not the sexy hires, but are you impressed, or are you going, let me wait and see?
Well, I think it's natural to wait and see. First off, we need to see how this all materializes. But as far as bringing in Sean Mannion, I think it's a big swing, and there's boom or bust potential. But I can definitely see the boom, and I respect the fact that once the initial targets didn't materialize, they pivoted. They had what I think was a sound process thereafter, and I think if you said to anyone at the beginning of the search, it would be Sean Mannion, they probably wouldn't have believed you. But the fact that obviously they didn't get Mike McDaniel, they didn't get Brian Dable, and this is what a search should do. It shouldn't be predetermined, right? You meet with someone, you're impressed by his ideas, you're impressed by his background, his presence, and I think that's ultimately what it is. So we'll see how this looks, but I can certainly see the boom part of it, but there is a bust potential as well.
Where do you see the boom? Because you look at Sean Mannion, and okay, he's a quarterbacks coach. He's young. He played in the NFL. He's a quarterbacks coach with the Packers. I mean, Jordan Love didn't have this amazing season. If you look at his stats, in my opinion, they're very similar to Jalen Hurts' stats. So where do you see this boom? And look, I've heard Nick Foles, who's a teammate of his in St. Louis, and I heard Matt LaFleur talk about he's, a brilliant mind, is going to have a bright future in this business. But where do you see that boom when you talk about this new offensive coordinator?
Sure. I mean, first off, I look at 9 years in the NFL, and the exposure to different ideas, to different philosophies. I think when you're a backup quarterback, if you're a young backup quarterback, typically you're like an ascending player. If you're a veteran backup quarterback, they're keeping you in there not often because of your football ability, but because of your presence in the room. And I think when you just look at whether it's Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, Kevin Stefanski. I can go on down the list of all these coaches that he worked with who've gone on to become head coaches who are respected offensive minds. And I think when you hire someone, you're not just hiring a resume, you're hiring a person, right? And so I think that's a big part of it. When I see the boom, I see the football background, what I've heard from around the league about that mind, and it is a quick jump. And he doesn't have a lot of coaching experience, right? But it's not dissimilar to Kellen Moore with Dallas, for instance. And if you look at it, the Cowboys were one of the top offenses in the league during Kellen Moore's first year. And at that point, he was, what, 2, 3 years removed from playing for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and look, I look at this situation, I'm like, man, on one hand you go, who are these guys? They're not the big names like the Mike McDaniel and Brian Dable. And on the other hand, I go, okay, Andy Reid, he came out of nowhere, like quarterbacks coach, the head coach. Nick Sirianni, wasn't this big name. Doug Peterson, and then you do have the big name and Chip Kelly they hire, and that was, in a lot of ways a disaster, the way it ended. So but Eagles fans are not patient. And so do you think there has to be a level of patience here when you talk about an offensive coordinator that has never called plays, at least as a coach, and when you talk about a pass game coordinator in Josh Grizzard, who has had 1 year calling plays in Tampa and then gets fired?
Well, no, I don't think there needs to be patience or should be patience. This is a win now team. I think, we all know the terms of engagement here, that this is not the Tennessee Titans where the time horizon is different. This is a team built and with expectations to win in 2026. But I don't think that because you're inexperienced, it doesn't mean you can't have early success. And so that's why I need to reserve judgment until I see the offense. I see the personnel. I'm expecting some personnel changes on the offensive side of the ball. But no, this is not a situation where if you and I talk in December, you say, he's starting to figure it out now. He needs to be figuring it out in August and September and October, and that's going to be a big part of this. But I think he would understand that too. When you're coming to a team that's 2 years removed from winning the Super Bowl, that's coming off an 11-win season, that has a lot of veterans on the offensive side of the ball. With the investments they've made, the expectation is that you win right away.
Yeah, and they're built for that. What do you think the biggest issue that needs to be addressed? And obviously, when you look at the two new guys they're bringing in to really transform this offense, and they may be brilliant minds. We weren't in those meetings with Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, but what do you think needs to change with this offense? Could it be something as simple as that offensive line just getting healthy, or do you think some big changes are needed as far as the way they run the offense?
Yeah, I mean it's never one thing. You are correct that the offensive line needs to get healthier, and I think that will help quite a bit. But if you say where can they improve the most, my view is efficiency in the passing game. I don't think they were nearly efficient enough in the passing game. Again, that's not just on the coordinator. That's the quarterback, it's the wide receivers, it's the protection. There's a lot that goes into that. But yeah, they need to be a more efficient passing game. I think there's some evolution that can happen in the passing game, and they've kind of signaled that with these moves in terms of the backgrounds that they're looking for in these coaches. But I think find a way to maximize the passing game. I don't know if AJ Brown's going to be here next year, but their wide receivers this past year were too talented to have the overall production that they had. And I think Jalen Hurts is too good a quarterback, and the offense has too much talent for them to be a bottom half of the league team. This is an offense that should be in the top half of the league, and especially their passing efficiency numbers need to be near the top of the league based on the resources and the experience of that group.
Yeah, and they haven't been. And you also look at third down, which has, been an issue, certainly an issue last year. And you look at what Josh Grizzard has done, at least in Tampa, his 2 years there in Tampa. What you could say has been successful for him has been his ability to have that team successful on third down. Will that translate here in Philadelphia with this group? Remains to be seen, but is there some confidence and some hope that he can fix at least some of the third down issues and the passing game issues when you talk about that going on with Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at third down issues, it's not like a button to push. This is how you convert the third down. I think it's what goes into that, and so I think when you consider whether it's the formations, whether it's the use of play action, whether it's the use of motion, how they utilize the middle of the field, certain route concepts that they have, the sequencing of plays, how effective you are in first and second down, eliminating early penalties so you're not playing behind the sticks. Like there's a lot that goes into it other than, I call this play on third down. But I think that, and that's why I keep going into the overall efficiency of the offense. And if you go back and you watch, the Rams Seahawks game, there was a comment that Tom Brady made that really resonated with me, which was what a good coordinator needs to do is get his quarterback layups, right? And I think there have not been enough layups in this Eagles offense, and I think that's one thing. They have the talent at wide receiver. I think Devontae Smith has been underutilized, frankly, given the type of player that he is, and so I think there are things that they can do to get their receivers in space, to get more layups, to use that term. And look, if you're in 3rd and 12, I don't care how good a coach you are, there aren't that many plays to convert 3rd and 12. It's how efficient can you be on early downs? How can you get into manageable situations? And by the way, Kevin Patullo would tell you the same thing, right? Like
Sure.
I don't think Kevin was, I think Kevin had a sharp offensive mind. I think that there were things from a play calling perspective that needed to improve, and the Eagles would probably agree given the way the season went.
When you go into the coaching search and they let Patullo go situation, when this all started, there's no way you're thinking these two names and Mannion being your offensive coordinator is going to be the end result, right? There's no way going into it you would think that this would be the end result, right?
Well, at the start of the search, and I think if they had truth serum, they would tell you as much. They were hunting for some of these bigger names, Mike McDaniel, Brian Dable, but you never know how things are going to materialize. Kevin Stefanski gets a head coaching job. Todd Monken gets a head coaching job, right? I mean, there are only so many of those types of candidates, if you will. So as the search evolved, I think that the play calling experience was not necessarily a prerequisite.
Do you, and if I don't mean to cut you off, but do you
Yeah.
think a lot of people, that narrative out there that this job was not, a great job, do you think that's a ridiculous narrative? I mean, I've heard that from talk radio and different people here and there, that it's not a great and great job. I would disagree, but that's just me. You have more insight than I would.
Yeah, I think it's nuanced, Jeff. Like it's and what I mean by that is what might be a great job to one person is not a great job to another person. I think if you're an aspiring coach, a young aspiring coach, or if an aspiring head coach, I should say, this is a job that's produced three head coaches in the past 10 years, right? I've covered the team for 14 years. I've seen Kellen Moore and Shane Steichen and Frank Reich all go on to become head coaches. Now, the team made the Super Bowls all those years too. That certainly helps. There's talent on the offensive side of the ball. You think ownership and general management. There's a lot there that would be attractive to enter into. But the flip side is that look, there's a lot of internal pressure with this job, right? The expectation is that you win right away. You don't have a 3-year time horizon. There's a lot of external pressure for this job, as you well know. Us talking about this, talk media, or I'm sorry, talk radio talking about this, the passion of the fan base, like that comes with the territory. And then I think there's ambiguity with the roster, right? I mentioned I don't know if AJ Brown's going to be here. I don't know if Lane
Right.
Johnson's going to be here. The blue chip talent, you have to have blue chip players there. And then too, I think Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback, and his credentials are what they are. Super Bowl MVP, 5 playoff appearances in 5 seasons. But he's also the type of quarterback where I think you need to figure out what he does and maximize his skill set. And it's not a blank slate situation, right? So I think if you're looking at like Cam Ward, it's a different, you're taking over a young quarterback there. And so there's pros and cons to any job. There's geographical considerations, there's family considerations, there's financial considerations, right? There's so many things that go into a job that I think what could be a great job to one person might not be a great job to another.
Yeah, and look, Mike McDaniel, I mean, you go out to LA, there's a lot less pressure, I think, as the Chargers offensive coordinator. And, they have a good quarterback, they have a good head coach, and not saying one is better than the other, but I hear you. I mean, you talk about family life and everything else, to go live in Los Angeles with very little, at least external pressure. That could be a great situation. You look at Brian Dable, maybe he just, after his experience in New York, okay, let me just get out of here and just go to a place where there's less external pressure, and there is a little bit more of a blank slate. But when you look now at the Super Bowl matchup, hard to believe, okay, when you go into the season thinking the Eagles could make another Super Bowl run, fall short. Who do you like in the Super Bowl?
Good question. I mean, I need to dig deeper into the matchups. I've been
Because we didn't
focused on,
expect, like,
on
no
on
one
the OC
expected
search.
these two
Yeah.
teams. Like, I
Uh,
didn't.
yeah, I mean, I really like the way Seattle's playing right now. I think defensively they're really strong, and I think offensively you see what Smith-Jigba does, and they're running the ball well with Walker. Sam Darnold has been a high level quarterback during the playoffs in particular this year. So I would give the edge to Seattle, but honestly, like I haven't studied this matchup the way I did last year, for instance, when the Eagles were playing the Chiefs.
Sure. Sure. Obviously, with the Super Bowl coming up, you had a great book that came out, called The Leap Year. Tell me about the book, and
Yeah.
what are some fascinating points that Eagles fans would learn in there?
Yeah, thank you. So a leap year and the forwards by Brandon Graham, and it takes you behind the scenes of the Super Bowl season, and really from the time that the red confetti fell after the Super Bowl in 23 to the time the green confetti fell in 25, and really how that team was built, how they learned from that 23 season. There's behind the scenes stories. I'm in the locker room every day. There's these cutaway chapters on Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Lane Johnson and Jalen Carter and Zach Bond and Darius Slay, where you get to know who these people are kind of under the helmet. I think you see how that team got put together and what made that team special. So that's leap year. And then you can read all my coverage on a daily basis on The Athletic.
Yeah, we do a great job covering the Eagles, and maybe there's another few books in sight here with these new coaches, and the Eagles can get things turned around, go back to the Super Bowl, and then you'll have another book to write.
There you go. We'll see. We'll see.
All right, Zach Berman from The Athletic. Great job. Thank you so much. Great insight. So great insight there from Zach Berman from The Athletic, and he is a great writer, a great reporter, asks great questions. He does such a great job for The Athletic, and you can pick up any of his books where books are sold, Amazon, you name it. There are fascinating books, including The Leap Year. I agree with Zach in the sense of we need a little bit of patience to see and to judge it right off the bat. None of us were in those meetings, and again, he could be a brilliant offensive mind working under Sean McVay and under Stefanski and Kevin O'Connell and, of course, Matt LaFleur. But you really don't know what you're going to get. And you could be brilliant and it not work out, or you could be brilliant and it does work out. So I'm intrigued to see how this is going to play out. I feel like things can only go up offensively with Jalen Hurts, but when you compare Jalen Hurts to Jordan Love and Mannion, he was that quarterback's coach last year with the Packers. When you compare both of those numbers, Jordan Love to Jalen Hurts, they are near identical numbers. And so I don't think it's a situation where he took a quarterback to the next level. Jordan Love didn't have an amazing season. So it remains to be seen how this plays out. We will find out. And how's Jalen Hurts going to deal with this? Remember, this is now the 7th offensive coordinator / play caller in 7 seasons with Jalen Hurts. And so I do wonder, Jalen, who talks so much about all of the changes and how that affected him. I mean, you look right here at all the changes. Sean Mannion, Kevin Patullo, Kellen Moore, Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen, Nick Sirianni, Doug Peterson. I mean, and this is not even including all of the changes in college, right? I mean, and, that's why there was the belief, okay, maybe Brian Dable would come in here because he had Dable as an offensive coordinator / play caller at Alabama for a little bit. So you do wonder, how's Jalen Hurts going to be impacted by this? How's Jalen Hurts going to respond to this? And you saw at the end of the HBO Hard Knocks, at the end of that series they did, where, Jalen turned to Nick Sirianni and said, we'll be back. We'll be back. I know it. You feel that fire. It was just coming through the screen. You can feel that they're determined. And Nick has been very open about the adversity they have faced over the years. If they don't face the adversity in 2023 and everything that went on and losing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs, they don't respond that following year and win the Super Bowl. And so you don't want to hear it. You don't want to feel it, but maybe this adversity once again will help get this team over the top. But I want you to hear this because it is important that Packers head coach Matt LaFleur, thinks the world of Sean Mannion, and so many others have. I want you to hear this from Matt LaFleur, what he said about Sean Mannion, and you're going to like this because it's very, very impressive. Listen.
Unbelievable. Great job. He's been awesome. He's got a bright future in this profession. He attacks it the same way I knew he would when he was a player. Just extreme ownership of everything, puts in the extra time, just goes above and beyond the call of duty, which is exactly what you want from your assistant coaches.
I love it. I absolutely love it, right? So he's a bright future in this business. Very, very smart guy. Hearing it from Matt LaFleur. And one thing you do need in this city, and we all know it, is you need to have thick skin. You need to be able to handle how intense things are in this town. You need that thick skin. And maybe that's why Mike McDaniel didn't want to come here. Maybe that's why Brian Dable didn't want to come here. Who knows? And I think those two were the sexy top targets going into this entire situation. So you do wonder, okay, if you're Mike McDaniel, there's a lot less pressure to go be the Chargers offensive coordinator. And I don't think that's necessarily an indictment of the Eagles situation. And, so there was that notion maybe that was put out there that, maybe this is a bad job. I don't think so. I think the Eagles job, maybe it's a little complicated, but it's one of the greatest jobs out there, I thought, this offensive coordinator job. I would say the Eagles offensive coordinator job was potentially better than a lot of head coaching jobs out there. Would you rather be the Browns head coach or the Eagles offensive coordinator? I would tell you, I'd rather be the Eagles offensive coordinator. There's more potential stability here. Yes, the pressure is white hot. It's intense. We know it. We feel it. And maybe Brian Dable, after everything going on in New York, maybe it's like, okay, I just kind of need a break. Maybe you go, okay, Mike McDaniel, go out to LA. There's no pressure externally in LA with the Chargers. Are you kidding me? And you have a good head coach and a good quarterback, which I think you have here in Philly, but maybe just for his family, he has a young family, that it was just time. It was just time. All right, let's talk about the Phillies. Spring training, less than 2 weeks away. We have snow on the ground here. It's ice cold. Who wants to deal with that? The Phillies, okay, with spring training less than 2 weeks away, there's that fan frustration that we've talked about, that they're just running this back and all that other stuff coming off the season they just had. I wholeheartedly disagree with that perspective. I mean, they have stars across the board. But I want to get the perspective of NBC Sports Philadelphia and Phillies analyst Ben Davis. Let's bring him in, the former Major League catcher and star from Malvern Prep, the Malvern Prep grad, Ben Davis. Thanks for joining us on Bet Park Saturday. Ben, how's it going? What's happening, Ben? How are you? Can you hear us? You got me, Ben? We're having a hard time hearing Ben Davis here. Ben, are you able to hear us? So some technical difficulties here. We're trying to get Ben Davis here on the line so we can make sure we can hear him. We ran into this last week with Merrill Reese, and this is the challenge of live television. I'm having a hard time connecting with Ben Davis. Let's check in with my producer here, Julia Hoff. Julia, how are we doing here with Ben? Ben, are you able to hear us? What's that? Low levels are coming in. All levels. Okay. So what should we do here? All right. So let's see if we can get Ben Davis on the line and get this going. In the meantime, let's talk about Bet Parks. Sports betting live is better on the Bet Parks app. Join me and get some skin in the game. Live betting makes watching the game that much more fun. Bet more than the score. Bet pro football. Of course, the Super Bowl is coming up. When you look at the Super Bowl, how about this line? The Seattle Seahawks, the 4.5-point favorites over the Patriots to win in 8 days. How about the over-under 45.5? That is currently the line. And we're going to talk to Brad Feinberg about that coming up later in the show. But Bet Parks, the app, if you get on there, you can make some bets. It's very easy to navigate, very easy to use. Plus, Bet Parks has some great offers for new users in the new year. Bet Parks, great offers. Listen to this one. Get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in your first 24 hours. Plus, get a $50 casino bonus on Triple Cash Eruption, the hot slot game. Bet Parks, the only app that I recommend to use to bet on sports, whether it's professional, whether it's collegiate, whatever it is. And also there's that classic games, the casino games like blackjack, craps, roulette, the hot online slots. You must be 21 years old in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Michigan. BetParks.com has all the details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Jeff Skaversky here on Bet Parks Saturday from the Sportsbook at Parks Casino in Ben Salem. Let's see if we can get Ben Davis back. Let's try Ben Davis one more time. Ben, do you have me? Can you hear me? I'm not quite still hearing Ben. Ben, are you able to hear me okay? Talk to Ben just about everything going on with the Phillies and the fact that there's this feeling that, he can, this team, are they running it back? And like, that's a bad thing, but it's certainly something I want to talk to Ben Davis about as we get set with the Phillies and everything going on with spring training right around the corner. Yeah, so we're having some technical difficulties getting Ben Davis coming through here on Bet Park Saturday. As we told you at the top of the show, Sixer star Paul George suspended 25 games for violating the NBA anti-drug policy. He will miss 25 of the final 35 games starting tonight versus the New Orleans Pelicans. And it comes on the night you're honoring Allen Iverson and that 0-1 team that went to the NBA Finals against the LA Lakers and lost against Kobe. And in a statement, Paul George released saying, quote, Over the past few years, I've discussed the importance of mental health, and in the course of recently seeking treatment for an issue of my own, I made the mistake of taking improper medication. I take full responsibility for my actions and apologize to the Sixers organization, my teammates, and the Philly fans for my poor decision-making during this process. I am focused on using this time to make sure that my mind and body are in the best condition to help the team when I return. And he's going to return with just 10 games to go, and so certainly a big blow for the Philadelphia 76ers, losing Paul George 25 games for violating the anti-drug policy. Big blow for the Philadelphia 76ers. So Paul George dealing with lots of injuries, and hopefully that this team, when he comes back, can get over the top. And speaking of, let's try one more time, see if we can get to Ben Davis. Bring Ben Davis in. Ben, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. My apologies, guys. I kind of live out in the middle of nowhere, so the communication is not all great.
No worries. All right, so Ben Davis, the NBC Sports Philadelphia baseball and Phillies analyst, joining us, former Major League catcher and the pride of Malvern Prep. We appreciate you joining us and hanging in there. How's it going today, Ben?
It's going good, Jeff. A little cold outside, but it's not too bad inside. So
yeah, and obviously you want to warm up, and let's talk about Phillies pitchers and catchers. Spring training right around the corner, less than 2 weeks away. And Ben, there's the theory out there, and there's the frustration I feel like from the fan base that, oh, this team's just running it back, and they didn't do much this offseason. And Dave Dombrowski said he's kind of content where the club is. What is your theory on where the Phillies stand right now after the offseason that they have had? Do you feel like this team is still in good shape going into spring training and the regular season?
I do, and I think that so because of what they did in the regular season the last couple of years. To win 96 games like they did last year, I mean, that's a lot of games in a tough division. In a tough league. The National League, I think, is stacked with a lot of really good teams. But to finish up where they finished, I think really speaks volumes about the ball club that they have, the pitching staff that they have. Now, I know they're going to start the season without Zach Wheeler, and that's going to hurt a lot. But I think this ball club is destined to get to the playoffs again and make a good, hard playoff push. They just have to figure out a way to win in the playoffs, and that's the bottom line. They have to figure out a way to be consistent offensively in the playoffs. If they do that, they have a good shot.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that had that theory of like, they're just running it back. And I just go, okay, go position my position. Where are you going to get better at? And so you have Bryce Harper and you have Trey Turner. And yes, could they have upgraded the outfield a little bit better? I would think so. But I like the theory of, okay, can Garcia replace, if not produce more than Nick Castellanos? And they believe, and I heard them talk about this when they signed him, that they identified something in his swing. They're already working with him on that he can become the player he was a few years ago when he won ALCS MVP. Yes, they could have made some other moves potentially, but they went after Bo Bichette. I don't blame the Phillies on that. So I just go, where else does this team have a major hole where you're going, oh my goodness, they need some help? And look, you look in center field, Justin Crawford, it's time for him to see what he can do, right? I mean, so I just look at this team and go, what else do you want them to do?
Yeah, we'll have to see what Crawford can do. Obviously, there's really not a whole lot for him to prove at the minor league level other than power, but hopefully that'll develop even more. But his game really isn't predicated upon power. But I love the move by Garcia to go out and acquire him. I think he's got a lot left in the tank. I think he's going to bring a spark to this ball club, much like Harrison Bader did last season. This is a team there's a lot of stoic players in that. They don't do a whole lot. They're not very vocal. But Garcia, he's a flashy guy. I think he's going to bring a lot to the table. I think he's got a lot left in the tank. I like his game a lot. I think it's going to fit in with this ball club tremendously. He's going to play a tremendous, great, right field. He can run. He's got a lot of pop. He's bringing that swagger, I think, to this ball club that this ball club needs. And I think he's going to give them that little extra boost. But you're right, if you look around position for position, I think that the defense is outstanding. You got Marsh in left field, you got Turner short, boom. You got Stott, Harper at first base, you got Schwarber DH, and then them signing back JT, which I think was a must an absolute must, not only for the ball club, but obviously for this pitching staff. This pitching staff loves throwing to him, and why not? He puts in as much work as anybody. Behind the scenes that he does is off the charts. So, I'm glad that they were able to sign him back. The pitching staff relies heavily upon him. But if you go position for position, there's really a few clubs out there that have better names and numbers than the Phils.
Yeah, and I hate to say, okay, they had a great regular season the last 2 years, 96 games, 95 games. They had second best record in baseball each of the last 2 years. And I hate to say, okay, that is not good enough at this point with where we're at. But I do just say, like, you could have let go of the manager. You could have made other major decisions. But when it comes to October and you have a 2-week span to kind of put up or shut up, like, you could have signed Bo Bichette and he could have gone 2 for 28, right, in October, and it's over anyway. And so how do you get this team over the hump? I mean, what can possibly be said to a Bryce Harper or Trey Turner or Kyle Schwarber to get them to produce when everything is on the line in a short series like they had against the Dodgers?
Yeah, that's $1 million question. And you look back at the last game of the season, and everyone blames the season. Oh, Ryan Kirkland threw the ball away. Why didn't he just go to first base? Blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is the Phillies got 1 run in 11 innings on 4 hits. And that's just simply not going to cut it. They have to be more consistent offensively. They do. I hate the term small ball, but they have to do more things consistently from an offensive standpoint. They do have to put more balls in play. They can't strike out. Their situational hitting has to be better. It has to be better. I always equate this ball club currently to the 3-point shooting basketball team. If the 3-pointer's going down, that's great. That's great. But if it's not going down, you have to find other ways to score. And that's the way this ball club is right now. If you're hitting home runs out of the ballpark, that's awesome. They're going to win a lot of ball games, especially with the starting rotation. But if they're not hitting ball out of the ballpark, they have to find different ways to score runs. And that's something that they failed to do in the last couple of seasons. You look at 23, when they go out to the desert against the Diamondbacks, they're up two games to nothing, and they go out there and it seemed like they forgot how to hit. And they come back obviously with 2 games here at Citizens Bank Ballpark, and they lose those 2 games, and then the D-backs go on the NLCS. So it's very frustrating to watch. I think at times they get frustrated, but it has to be 1 or 2 guys also stepping up, because it seems like when this offense goes bad, it's the whole offense. It's not just 1 or 2 guys. So if they can keep 1 or 2 guys hot throughout that course, of the playoff run, I think they'll be a little bit better off.
I don't know if he meant it to be intentional, but what Dave Dombrowski said at the end of the season after they were eliminated by the Dodgers at that press conference that has become a big thing about is he still an elite player, that whole situation, whether he meant it or not, I think it is going to light a fire under Bryce Harper. And I'm not saying he needs motivation, and Bryce has done everything right since coming over from the Nationals. I mean, he went from the most hated player, I feel like, in Major League Baseball for a Phillies fan to the most beloved player. And at this point in his career, I don't know if he necessarily needs motivation, but I do think he is going to come into spring training just with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, we saw him, I think it was like a month or so ago, that he was wearing the Not Elite T-shirt in a batting cage. How much do you think that can spark a player like Bryce Harper, whether Dave Dombrowski meant it or not, but just hearing something that the greatest athletes in the world use little things like that, as motivation? What do you think it's going to do for Bryce Harper come spring training in the regular season?
Well, Jeff, I don't care who you are or how good you are. I think at some point we all need a kind of a spark to get us going again. Whether Bryce Harper needs that or not, I think he's always had that in the back of his mind where he wants to be the best player in the world. And I think at times he is the best player in the world. But I really have no problem with what Dave Dombrowski said. I think it's a challenge for Bryce Harper to get back to being that elite player. Obviously Father Time is undefeated, and our birth certificates do not lie. So obviously it's, you're getting older, you start to lose a little bit of bat speed. You have to find other ways to be that elite player. I don't know if he really needs that spark, but if it does provide a spark for Bryce Harper, so be it. I have no issue with it. You always want to prove to everybody that you are worth what you're getting paid, that you are that elite player. The reason you signed a $330 million contract. So, whether he took offense to it or not, obviously, he probably did wearing that T-shirt. But I have no issues with Dave Dombrowski said. And if it makes Bryce Harper a better player, then it's only going to help him out. It's only going to help the ball club out.
That is a concern. You brought it up, father time. I mean, this team there is a feeling that I have with this team, which is it feels like to me after the '08 run where you have Ryan Howard and Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley and Cole Hamels, where everyone's aging and they just could not get over the hump. And I know there was different circumstances and things like that, but they did not make these big, bold moves like the Cardinals did and let their, aging players like Albert Pujols go. And the Phillies held on to that core to try to get over the hump again. Does it feel similar here where you're hanging on to an older Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner and Bryce Harper and Zach Wheeler, when their contracts are up, the current deals are on, they're going to be, 37, 38, 39, 40. Is that a concern that this team is too old at this point, and they're not playing small ball and they're not doing the little things like the Dodgers did and things like that? Is there that concern for you that this team is too old right now?
Yeah, it is a concern of mine. And, obviously they have these guys wrapped up for a lot more years. You look at the deal with Schwarber, they're signed for another 5 more years. Harper's got, 6 more years left on his deal or 7 more years. Turner's got, I think, 8 years left on his deal. So, JT just signed for another 3 more years. They got Aaron Nola for another 5 more years. So this is a ball club. Yeah, they're getting older, but I will say they do the training staff. These guys take a lot of pride in what they do, how they maintain their bodies. I know it's a long season. I know these guys are getting older, but they have ways and means to keep their bodies fresh. I think Rob Thompson's really good and diligent in getting these guys off their feet, as he says, to give them a couple days off here and there. So I think that helps them out. But yeah, I mean, you always have those concerns with the age and how old these guys are getting. But I think if a ball club, you look at it, these guys take a lot of pride in what they do, and they prepare themselves every day to go out there and play good winning baseball. That is one thing I've said from day one, that this is one of the most professional baseball clubs I've ever been around. I mean, these guys are there at 12:30, 1 o'clock every day, preparing themselves, going over video, looking at different things, how to prepare. The professionalism of this ball club is second to none that I've ever seen. Any ball club that I've ever been on, any ball club I've ever covered, is very professional and diligent about how they go about their business.
What do you think their mindset is going into yet another season where they come up short and the bats, their star bats, we talked about at the start of this, that just did not perform when it mattered most? What do you think their mindset is and their mentality? Obviously, they're disappointed. Obviously, they're frustrated. We all get it. Phillies fans are as well. But as a former player, can you take me inside what you think their mindset is now going into yet another season of coming up short for the same really exact reason your stars are underperforming?
Yeah, I think it's, be honest with you, Jeff, I think it's a little bit more past frustrated. I think these guys are ticked off, for lack of better.
Is that a good thing? And is that a good thing?
I think it is. And baseball's not really a game you want to play with anger, much like football. Like if you get ticked off,
Right,
like you want to go destroy somebody, and you have the ability to do so. It not really so much in baseball. And usually, the harder you swing, the slower your bat gets, or the harder you try and throw a pitch, that's the one you leave that hanging slider and it gets knocked out of the ballpark. But I think these guys are in a different state right now mentally. I think they're still pissed off from last year, from the last previous years, and how they performed in the playoffs, knowing that they definitely have what it takes. And that's the frustrating thing. They definitely have what it takes. They just have not shown that in the playoffs. You look at someone like Shohei Ohtani last year against the Phillies. I believe he was 1 for 18 in that
he was
series.
terrible. Yeah, the Phillies kept him in check. Right.
They kept him in check. And, you always forget about that. The great Shohei Ohtani, the best player maybe this game has ever seen. He goes 1 for 18 in that series. So baseball is a fickle game with that matter, but they have to find a way, as we talked about earlier, to be better offensively and be more consistent. Otherwise, it's going to be another shortened season for them.
What do you think if there's one area where you would like to see them improve on? Is it outfield help? Is it starting pitching depth? Is it third base? Is it second base? Is there an area where you go, you know what, they really do need to attack this, whether it's before the regular season starts or at the trade deadline, which is, of course, months away? But what area would you say, okay, I'd like to see them improve on?
Well, I'm anxious to see how it works out in center field with Crawford. I don't know how long a leash that they're going to have for him. I think he's going to be okay defensively, but I think what he does offensively, I think he's not going to have that long of a leash out there in center field to prove that he is a big leaguer and can play every day. So, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I really like where they're at. Obviously without Zach Wheeler, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. And not to have him to start the season, probably looking at Taijuan Walker to fill that void. He's had some rough years here in Philadelphia. But I think if anyone can step up a little bit and fill those shoes, it would be Andrew Painter. I know he didn't have the best year in AAA last year. He got knocked around a little bit, but he was pretty much trying to make sure he could stay healthy and throw strikes. And he proved that last year. He was able to stay in the strike zone. But I think that command's going to be even better when he comes back this season. I think he's got a lot to prove. He's still a very young kid. He's going to be learning throughout the process, big league process and throughout the course of the season. But I think if someone can fill Zach Wheeler's shoes to a certain degree, obviously you can't replace Zach Wheeler. But I think early on, until he gets back, I think Andrew Painter can be that guy. But where they need to improve, I really don't know. I think the bullpen's going to be okay. I love the addition of Brad Keller. Last year, the season he had in Arizona was outstanding. I think that obviously the closer role is secure with Duran. So I like where they're at. They're going to have Alvarado back this year. So I really don't think there's a whole lot of ways that they can improve, but they got to hit, Jeff. That's the bottom line. They got to hit.
Do you think it was a mistake letting Ranger Suarez just go, or do you think the money to production is just not there? I mean, I loved Ranger, but I was curious to get your opinion about that. I mean, there really didn't seem like much of a conversation there.
Yeah, I mean, Ranger, I think that the Phillies had gotten to a point where they were concerned about his overall health, his long-term health. The Boston Red Sox gave him a lot of money, and I'm happy for Ranger. He was a great Philly. He's a great guy. He always gave us the time. He was always the same guy every day, no matter whether he went to throw a 9-inning shutout or he got yanked in the second inning. He was always that consistent guy, and I wish him all the best in Boston. It's a great city to play in, but I think the Phillies had gotten to that point where they were concerned about his overall health, his longevity, and how he maintained his body, and I think that was pretty much the deciding factor in whether he came back or not.
Yeah, that money, a boatload of money. And Ben, I think you were born like 15 years too late, right? Like if you look at the money that's being thrown around right now, like Bo Bichette, $42 million a year from the Mets. I mean, my goodness. I mean, I've heard Mike Schmidt talk about this, like, jealous kind of like the modern day player and these salaries they're making. I mean, it is insane.
It's nuts. And you look at Kyle Tucker making $60 million with the Dodgers. I know all that money's deferred. Good luck doing those books later on, especially with him and Ohtani and all the rest of the guys. But
so the Bobby Bonilla,
like
the Bobby Bonilla deal, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I kind of played in the wrong era. I understand that. I mean, I wasn't a great Major League Baseball player, but I definitely would have made a heck of a lot more now. But I think that's where the game is. I don't think anybody's worth that, obviously, with the exception of probably Ohtani. But you look at someone like Mike Schmidt, like what would he get paid nowadays? I mean, the guy was 3-time All-Star, 12 Gold Gloves, 3 MVPs. I mean, this guy did everything in the game. I feel bad for those old timers looking at some of these contracts thinking, man, what could I have made nowadays? But that's the way it is. That's where we're at. But, we as players always thought that, no one else in the world could do what we did and we should get paid accordingly. And I think that's where they're at right now. But, man, they're making a lot of money, Jeff.
They really are. And JT, a lot of people are saying, oh, they're paying him too much. And I go, okay. As a former catcher, you obviously appreciate the job JT Realmuto does. And yes, his regular season numbers declined this year, but you got to remember, like everyone's criticizing what the Phillies did in the playoffs. He was your best hitter in the playoffs, and what he does with your pitching staff, what he does behind the plate. He's still one of the greatest defensive catchers in baseball. And as go, what are your backup plans? And they believe in JT, and maybe he's not the player he was, but what is your better option? And I don't think the Phillies had one that was even close.
No, there wasn't. And, if you look at you say, okay, we'll go into the season with Rafael Marchand and Garrett Stubbs and nothing against those two, but I mean, they're just not everyday guys. And I don't think the Phillies could have gone into the season. Yes, they're okay defensively, but I think signing JT was a must. It was a mandatory thing that needed to get done. They got it done, thankfully. I know he's getting up there in age, but this guy maintains himself as well as anybody. He's a genetic freak. That's the bottom line. He still runs extremely well. People always say, oh, he runs well for a Catcher. I say BS to that. This guy runs well, period. He's The problem is that Rob Thompson has is getting him off his feet, because he goes every AT. I want to give him a day off. He goes, I think I'm going to get fist fight with the guy. He said, I'm not having the day off. But he's got to find some ways to get him off his feet. But I think it was great that they signed him. Again, this guy keeps himself in great physical shape. He wants to play every day. He prepares himself to play every day. But I think the Phillies signing him was a must for the ball club, and especially for this pitching staff.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, for everyone out there that is down on this team, I'm like, man, just relax. I mean, look, they have to perform obviously in October. That is the key to all of this. But as far as position by position, is there a bigger upgrade out there that you can also get? Yes, there are better players out there, maybe at third base or second or here or there, but can you get those players and also financially afford it where it makes sense? In any event, Ben, we appreciate you joining us on the program today. Great insight about the Phillies. Spring training less than 2 weeks away. Cannot wait for baseball season to get going, and hopefully this will be the year they get over the hump and have another parade down Broad Street. It's been a few years since 2008.
Yes, it has. Jeff, I appreciate you having me on. I can't wait for my favorite game of the year next Sunday, the Super Bowl.
Your favorite? Who do you like?
Well, I say it's my favorite because I know as soon as the Super Bowl's over, spring training is right around the corner. So I like the Seahawks in this one. I don't see anybody. That defense is unbelievable. I mean, the Eagles have a good defense, but that defense that the Seahawks have, man alive, it's insufferable. I mean, they just squash you like a bug every chance they get. They are top notch, and I just don't see the Patriots getting by them.
I got to tell you, though, I mean, I don't know if anyone in the world had these two teams in the Super Bowl, let alone, I don't know if anyone had these two teams in the playoffs, right? Like when the season started, that they were going to be in the playoffs. But in any event, it should be an interesting Super Bowl. And too bad the Birds are not in it. But there's always next year, right? All right, Ben Davis.
There's always next year.
NBC Sports Philadelphia, Phillies analyst, does a great job, calls it like he sees it, calling the Phillies and baseball for NBC Sports Philadelphia. Thank you so much for joining us on Bet Park Saturday.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
All right, Ben Davis, great insight there about the Phillies, what to look for. And I agree with Ben. I mean, I've said it all along that this team, this whole notion of running it back and, is not good enough. I just go, come on. I go, and I know that it's not good enough and they have to get over the hump and the regular season doesn't matter anymore. And I agree with that sentiment. But you cannot hit for Bryce Harper. You cannot hit for Trey Turner and Kyle Schwarber. And if you're paying these guys $300 million, these are the guys that need to perform when the lights shine the brightest. And I think this Phillies team could have beaten the Dodgers in the divisional series. The Dodgers did all the little things right. The Phillies didn't get the big hits when they needed it. 2 more hits, 3 more hits, a little better at small ball, and who knows what would have happened. In any event, spring training to look forward to in less than 2 weeks away here on Bet Park Saturday. Jeff Skversky with my producer, Julia Hoff, on this Saturday. Live sports betting is better on the Bet Parks app. Join me and get some skin in the game. Live betting makes watching the game that much more fun. Bet more than the score. Bet pro football. The Super Bowl coming up a week from tomorrow. Seahawks, Patriots. Seattle is 4.5-point favorites in this game. You can bet touchdown scores, bet individual player performances for passing, rushing, and much more. Plus, Bet Parks has a great offer for new users for the new year. Get up to $1,000 casino bonus dollars back if you're down in your first 24 hours. Plus, get a $50 casino bonus on Triple Cash Eruption, the hot slot game. Bet Parks, the only Bet Parks casino app I recommend. You can play, of course, the casino games like blackjack and craps and roulette and the hot online slots. You must be 21 in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Michigan to join us. BetParks.com has all the details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. As we told you throughout the broadcast, that Paul George, Sixers star, suspended 25 games, and obviously a big blow as he has violated the NBA's anti-drug policy. And it comes on the night that the Sixers are honoring the 2001 team and Allen Iverson. And it's supposed to be a celebration of a night, and you think, okay, is this the year that Paul George and Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey are going to get over the hump? Could this be the year? Maybe it is, right? And everybody was looking forward to that, this being the year to take it to the next level. But I remember that 01 team. Allen Iverson was just an unbelievable. Loved watching him play. Just a guy that did everything, left it all out on the floor. And it was the perfect underdog story, like the 2017 Eagles, like the 93 Phillies, that cast of characters that did not expect to go to the next level. They were able to figure that out. And when I think about that 0-1 team and the job that Larry Brown did and Allen Iverson, that Allen Iverson-led team, in my opinion, had no business in the NBA Finals against the Lakers. And you think of those iconic moments of Iverson stepping over Tyronn Lue and everything that went on that year, bringing in Dikembe Mutombo. And I remember in the locker room before the series started they brought in Dikembe Mutombo for this reason, to go up against Shaquille O'Neal in the NBA Finals. And I remember Dikembe being asked about having to face Shaquille O'Neal, and he goes, "It's not going to be a walk in the cake." And I remember that quote. Okay, English is not his first language, and he messes up the expression, not his first. But everyone's excited to see this team, including the Sixers. Julie, let's hear that bite from the Sixers about the current Sixers. Excited to see the 0-1 team tonight. Let's take a listen to that.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be great. Obviously, it's a tradition here. Being a part of, Sixers family, organization, that group means a lot to the city. So it'd be awesome to kind of share the space, the moment, and play in front of them. We want to represent them the same way that they represented the city.
It'll be a great night, obviously, an awesome team, and always cool to see former players from a great team get together. I'm sure it'll be fun for those guys, and it should be a treat for the fans and certainly for us too. All right, everybody. Thanks.
It is certainly a treat for the Sixers fans tonight. Of course, you will be showing up at the arena with kind of a bad feeling as, again, Paul George suspended 25 games for violating the NBA anti-drug policy. All right, so let's talk about everything from the Sixers to the Super Bowl with our gambling expert, Brad Feinberg. Brad, of course, a great follow on X at Brad's Best Bets. Brad, how's it going today?
Great to see you, buddy. How are you, Jeff?
You too. Brad Feinberg, obviously, when you look at the Super Bowl right now and the early line, as we're about 8 days away, Seahawks 4.5-point favorites to beat the Patriots. Your thoughts on this line?
It's funny, Jeff. For me personally, God, excuse me, I lost my voice a little bit.
Well, that is bad for television, right?
Yeah, no, you're not lying. These are the two teams I picked to go to the Super Bowl since week 5. I thought these were the two best teams. I thought New England and Seattle were terribly underrated. And I know a lot of people didn't think Sam Darnold could do it. And I thought he could, and I feel a little vindicated there. And New England, look, I understand, Jeff, they had an easy schedule. But this team defensively is playing incredible. Drake Mays obviously had a phenomenal year. I personally, my ratings, I thought the line would come in at 3.5 based on what the world thought. I made the line pick them though, Jeff. I think it's a 50-50 game. And gun to my head, I think New England's going to win. I know no one sees it that way, but I think these teams are even. I think New England's every bit as good as Seattle. And I think that Seattle's getting a little bit too much credit for beating an extremely flawed Rams team that was 30 seconds away from losing to Carolina.
Yeah, and so I don't think anybody going into this season, I mean, listen, you say that the Seahawks and Patriots were the two best teams, but going into the season, I don't think anybody saw this. And when you think about these two teams, I mean, I didn't think they would make the playoffs, these two teams, let alone
New England I thought would, but
be in the Super Bowl. And I saw the odds. This is like this may have like the biggest odds going into a Super Bowl of teams that were not expected to be here. So when you look at this and when you look where the line is at, as the Seahawks being 4.5-point favorites, what are your thoughts on how to play this?
Well, again, Jeff, for me, I personally think the game is a 50-50 affair. So
what would you bet? Like if you had $100?
Yeah, okay.
Where are you putting your money?
Here's what I would do. Well, first of all, again, remember last week, Jeff, we talked about, I said the same thing about Denver, New England. I go, the game's going to come down to the last play. It's ridiculous they're that big of a favorite, 5.5 points, New England. Again, I don't pick teams, I pick numbers, right? And that's last week I was talking how much I love Denver. I go, it's going to be a field goal game either way. To me, this game's similar, Jeff. My favorite bet in this game, though, Jeff, forgetting taking the points, would be I really like Seattle's team total. You can bet their team total, Jeff, under 25.5 points. I do not think this New England team, is playing tremendous defensively, and I think Seattle's going to struggle a lot to get to really, 27, 28 points. I don't see it. I think New England's defense is elite. And I would, Jeff, listen, to beat this Seattle team, you'd say, okay, we got to stop the run, right? Because they love to run with Walker before they Charbonnet. Well, this New England defense is one of the best teams against the run. Then you say they have this guy, JSN, who every single week gets 12 catches for 150 yards. Gosh, I wish we had an elite cornerback. Check. We arguably have the best cornerback in the NFL. So to me, from a matchup perspective, I actually think New England is uniquely qualified, so to speak, to really give this Seattle offense fits. As much as I've loved Darnold all year, I think it's to me the toughest matchup he's had all season.
Yeah, and go figure. I mean, the Vikings GM was let go yesterday, and they let him go. And think about it. I mean, the Jets have been looking for an answer forever, and he's drafted by the Jets. And Joe Douglas,
Crazy.
right? And Joe Douglas even admitted when they moved on from Sam Darnold that he may go on to have a great career, but it's just not working here. And sometimes a change of scenery is necessary. But what Sam Darnold has done is just remarkable. All right, so when you look at the big game, 8 days away, you look at the Super Bowl, there's some, of course, great prop bets. There's some great gambling that goes on at the Super Bowl. When you think of some of the prop bets, what are some of your favorite prop bets out there for the Super Bowl between the Patriots and Seahawks?
Well, Jeff, it's funny, and I know we talked about Seattle running the football. I think they're going to struggle to run the football against a New England team they haven't let anyone run against them, Jeffrey. I mean, no one has been able to run the ball, and they opened Walker at 84.5, which was a joke. That got bet down by everyone, but it's still, I think, sitting around mid-70s. I still think that's too high. I don't think Walker's going to get 75 yards against this New England team. I really don't. I think they're going to try to run him. I have no doubt about that. But I just don't think that he's going to have that kind of success. I think you're going to see a lot of Walker left tackle 2 yards, 2nd and 8. Walker right tackle 2 yards. It's now 3rd and 6. And they're going to try to run him, but I just don't think they're going to have the success. I like Walker's under. And to me, that would say that's probably my favorite one. And it's fun. I found interesting. I was working with a guy who's pretty good. And he was saying how Drake May, because Seattle plays a lot of zone coverage, that maybe Drake May will not get his 35 rushing yards because obviously when it's man coverage, it's easier to get a run for a quarterback because you're following your man. You're not looking for the quarterback. But if you're in a zone, you're in a certain space, not as easy to get some of those big chunk runs that we've seen Drake May get. And one other thing I'll say, Jeff, look, A.J. Barner, second leading receiver for the Seattle team. Because I think, and maybe I'm wrong, we've had Vrabel, what Vrabel's done under Belichick is that same system is he'll try to take out your best player, right? In this case, JSN, and let the others beat him. So the second best guy this year has been Barner, believe it or not. And New England has not done well against a tight end. Over 2.5 catches, A.J. Barner, over 24 yards. I think both those have legs. Because I don't think we're going to get a crazy, crazy dominant game from JSN like we usually see.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of these prop bets. Anytime touchdown scorer here at Bet Parks, Kenneth Walker III at minus 190. Who do you think? What is your favorite bet in the Super Bowl? When you hear these like who's going to score first and who's going to do this, and what is your favorite prop bet when you think about the Super Bowl?
Well, it's interesting. It's not that I always. A good question, but I always go in. I don't have a bias, right? I just look at every single number, Jeff. I'm like, okay, is there value here? If there's value here, that becomes my favorite bet.
So where is your? And I would ask you then, where is your favorite value? At least
right now, I would say a couple bets that to me that I like. I told you, I think that Walker is going to struggle to get a big running game, even though he's going to get the attempts. I don't think Kenneth Walker is going to have a lot of success in this game. I think it's a very bad matchup for him. And right now, he's sitting at 74.5 on the Bet Park site. I think that's too high. I think it's too high, Jeff. I do not think Kenneth Walker gets to that number. And then I told you, receiving wise, Barner, to me, again, he's sitting at, I think, 24.5 right now. And he's sitting at 2.5 catches. I think in this specific spot, in this specific game, I like his chances. I like his chances to have a good game, because I don't think JSN is going to, as I said, have that crazy good game. But my favorite of all the bets, Jeff, as I said, team total. Team total. Give me the under for Seattle. I don't think they're scoring 26 points in this game. I'll be really surprised. Now, they may win the game, and they may cover, Jeff. They could win the game 17-10, 20-13. That's why I prefer taking under team total, because I'm not confident New England's going to score either, Jeff. I'm really not. No,
It sounds like a horrible Super Bowl. It sounds like a terrible Super Bowl.
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, do you remember when Roy Halladay went up against Chris Carpenter and it was 1-0 in that Phillies game 5, like in, I guess it was 2010 or whatever year it was?
2011.
2011, right. Okay, I thought that was the best Phillies team, by the way, side note. But anyway, that was a pitcher's duel, and it was 1-0. Was it a good game? Was it a bad game? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends what your appetite is. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be, I will say this, Jeff, I don't think it's going to be a game like we saw last year where the Eagles went up and down the field at will against Kansas City, scored 40 points or whatever the heck it was. I do not think that. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, tough game, 20-17, 17-16, somewhere in that area where I think it's going to be a really tight, low-scoring game. So give me under Seattle, and I'm going to dare them to score 4 touchdowns. I just don't see it. Unless, you know what, maybe Shaheed gets a freaky return or they get some defensive help. That's certainly possible. Anytime you take an under, you set yourself up for that. But on their own merits, I just don't think Darnold and company are going to do it. I like New England's defense a lot.
So Sam Darnold right now is the favorite to win the MVP award.
Yeah,
Drake May second at So yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think anyone, like I said, saw these two teams coming in.
No, of course not.
This, and so there's been such parity in the league, and in and year out, there's you see less of this dominance. And look, for the Eagles to not be here and make another run, and the Chiefs to not even make the playoffs, I just don't think anybody saw this. So I don't know what to expect from this Super Bowl. I just care about, hey, is this going to be a great game? Is this going to be a great game? So, Brad, if you had all the money in the world, okay, and what is your, at the end of the day, what is your, I don't know if you've even placed any bets on the game yet, but give me one area you're placing some money on.
Well, again, as I said, there's a few. Again, I told you I'm focusing on Walker's unders because I think he's going to struggle. And as I said, just don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. So, yes, I like the New England side for sure, getting the 5.5, 5 points. I like that side. But my favorite, as I said, Jeff, I'm focusing on how many points Seattle's going to score. And I don't think Seattle's going to have much success offensively, except maybe via the tight end, which is why I said I do think Barner, his bets over could be good. But everyone else, Seattle-wise, Jeff, I'm looking under. Darnold's unders. I don't think he's going to get there passing yards-wise. I like this matchup for New England. I think New England's defense carries the day.
Let's switch gears. Let's talk about the Sixers for a quick second. Sixers losing Paul George, 25-game suspension for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy. So he's going to miss 25 of the final 35 games. What do you think this does for the Sixers' odds at making a Eastern Conference Finals or NBA Finals run?
Well, honestly, Jeff, if in terms of that, you may be surprised in my answer. I'm going to say squadoosh.
Really?
Absolutely zero.
Okay, I am
zero.
surprised.
Not even this much. Now you're like, why do I say that? Because Jeff, you said the key, right? He's going to miss 25 of the next 35 games. Look, you could argue. I'll go as far to say you could argue this could be a positive. Like, Brad, are you nuts? It gives Paul George means hopefully better chance he's healthy for the playoffs, not injured.
But my thing is, like, he is healthy, right? Like, so
today, right? But I'm saying he's a veteran guy. It gives him time. I mean.
Right, but they don't have that flow. That's my thing with this team.
Yeah.
They never just seem to have this flow of everyone playing together, and it just felt like in the last couple weeks that everything was going well, and then, bam, you get punched in the gut, punched in the face, whatever you want to call it, and here we are again, one of their big three that is just not playing and gelling together. And then you go into the playoffs and you're going, okay, they can't close out close games because they just don't have that ability and they're just not gelling.
Yeah, no, Jeff, that's fair. That's fair. But to me, again, as long as he's healthy for the playoffs and playing in the playoffs, that's right. That's really the only look. The regular season, Jeff, at the end of the day, is a glorified 82 games to get players paid, entertainment for the fans. I get it. But in reality, the regular season means it just doesn't mean any. I'm just keeping it real. It doesn't mean anything. It's an exhibition to get to the playoffs. And once you get to the playoffs, look, we've seen it. The Sixers have been the number 1 or 2 seed, I feel like, every year when Embiid's been healthy. And then he always seems to get magically hurt before the playoffs. And we watched them fail spectacularly in those playoffs, never getting past the first round because he's never been healthy once that starts. So to me, being healthy for the playoffs, Jeff, is the only thing that really matters. And if George is healthy for the playoffs, look, this team, Jeff, they're probably only going to be, if I'm keeping it real, the 6th choice to get to the NBA Finals, right? I mean, Detroit's clearly going to be ahead of them. Boston's clearly going to be ahead of them. New York's clearly going to be ahead of them. Detroit is clearly going to be ahead of them, right? And that's just Cleveland's clearly going to be ahead of them. So those are 5 teams that are factually going to be favored ahead of them. And then you have teams like Miami, Orlando, Toronto, which could be listed ahead of them as well. But I will say this, and I said this, Jeff, I think if I was the Sixers, I would certainly really check in on what it would cost to get Anthony Davis, because I think he would help the team immensely. And I think if they were able to get him, ironically, I was saying Paul George, I don't know how many picks it would take. Like how many? I got to give up 4 or 5 picks. I don't know what it would take, but I think they could actually win the NBA championship if they added Anthony Davis. You may think that's crazy. You may think that's far too big of a stretch, but that's what I would do if I was Sixers. Like, you know what? Embiid seems to be playing well right now. I would not trade Edgecombe, obviously not trade Maxey, but if I could get Paul George for salary, give up 3 number 1s, 3 pick swaps, I would roll the dice that having those 2 big guys with Edgecombe and Maxey and George, whatever, you have to get rid of him. That's something I would do. I don't know if you agree, disagree, but that's how I would take things if I was Phillips.
You would get rid of whom? I'm sorry?
Paul George. I would try to get rid of Paul George.
It's gonna be tough now.
Well, no, because Jeff, that would be for salary. Dallas would be just getting back a salary. They wouldn't be doing it because they want Paul George. The key for them would be like, okay, we're giving you 3 number 1 picks, maybe 3 pick swaps, something like that. And I think the Sixers have, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff, they have a Clippers pick swap like 3 years, 4 years down the road. That to me is a massive. Think about this. Kawhi Leonard's what 35 or whatever he is. He's at the end of his career. Harden's at the end of his career. Come 3 years from now, if I had to pick a team that thinks to be the worst team in the NBA, I would pick the Clippers. Sixers own those. I think the Sixers own 2 of the Clippers picks, Jeff, coming up, if I'm not mistaken, from the James Harden deal.
Yeah, and so look, I don't know what's going to happen. And now you have to wonder, okay, at the NBA trade deadline, are they going to have to make a move because they go, okay, this is another year that we have to win. So I don't know what happens here, but certainly a punch to the gut today with the Paul George news. All right, Brad Feinberg from Brad's Best Bets. Great follow on Twitter. Great insight on how to place your bets here at Bet Parks. We appreciate, as always, you joining us on Bet Parks Saturday.
Jeff, I appreciate you as always. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you.
All right, get that voice back, Brad. We appreciate it, man. All right, take care. All right, Brad Feinberg, great insight there on how to bet the Super Bowl and some great prop bets. Talking to Brad there, and of course, we talked about the big news with Paul George being suspended 25 games. So Sixers host the New Orleans Pelicans tonight at home at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. They will not have Paul George suspended for 25 of the final 35 games. They're going to honor the 0-1 team, Allen Iverson, that team that went to the finals against Kobe and the Lakers. And you wonder, is this going to be the year that this team is going to get out of the second round of the playoffs? And to me, the Eastern Conference is wide open. You had this team playing so well, including Joel Embiid. He just looks like he's having so much fun. And we've said it for years. It is all on Joel Embiid, year in and year out, that health to be healthy. He's finally playing better. And you saw the big 3 playing so nicely together. And now it is just, again, a gut punch to have Paul George suspended. But as far as Embiid, I still say, and even though this has turned into Tyrese Maxey's team, it is on Embiid. It is on Embiid to stay healthy. And if so, I believe he can carry them. My biggest concern indeed with this team is, of course, health, availability, and closing out games. I still feel like they have an issue closing out games. It is a big issue for me. There was a stat that I saw that the Sixers have struggled closing out games. Here it is. Philadelphia's played 28 clutch games this season, games decided by 5 points or fewer within the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. They are 15-13 in those games. They're 15-13 in clutch games. That's not going to win you anything in the NBA playoffs. But Embiid is playing better. He sounds like he's in better spirits. He's having more fun. He's more relaxed. He's dunking. He's alley-oops. He's running the floor. A great sign. And they're going to need him even more now with Paul George suspended. Here's Joel Embiid on just how much he appreciates and how much gratitude he has right now with everything going on the last 2 years. He sounds like he's in a great mental space. Listen to Joel Embiid.
It means everything. Obviously, it gets me emotional. So, last 2 years I've been tough. So, just, can't take it for granted. Just happy to be, on the floor every night.
How good did it feel to get that alley-oop from Tyrese?
Well, I don't know if that was a wild decision, but it felt good. He was the first one in probably 4 or 5 years. So, I'll take it.
Why don't you think it was a wise decision?
Just because I don't usually go for dunks and alley-oops, but it's fun. Everybody gets happy, so that makes me happy.
Did you think you were going to throw down that lob that Tyrese threw up to you?
I mean, the way I was running, yeah, sure. But yeah, I told you guys I gotta go. 2 questions. It was good. Obviously, everybody gets happy, so yeah, that makes me happy.
Yeah, Joel Embiid, very, very happy. Everything going on with Embiid and the Sixers right now. All right, let's bring in our next guest, Anye Lachelle, here to talk about the Bet Parks, everything going on here at Parks Casino in Ben Salem, all the entertainment, including a big headliner coming, which is, I love this guy. Tracy Morgan's coming here to Ben Salem.
Yeah,
so,
he is.
Great to join us on Bet Parks Saturday. And I want to ask you about Tracy Morgan and some of the other great entertainment that's coming here.
Honestly, there's, as you know, Bet Parks Casino is the #1 casino in Pennsylvania, and that's for a reason. There's action, there's dining, there's headliners, and it's all happening at the state-of-the-art Excite Center. And first, I have to say, Jeff, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, yeah,
it's good to see you again. Yeah, we've crossed paths years ago, and so it's nice to be back here with you. But I think we should start with some of the dining, if that's okay with you. I think people love to eat, right?
I do. I have a burger over here waiting for me.
I was going to say, do you have a favorite restaurant here?
Anyone that brings us food.
Anyone that brings
us food. But the food is fantastic here. I've had it. I've had the chicken fried rice, the burgers. Yeah. You name it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, award-winning restaurants. I mean, there's the Liberty Bell Gastro Pub, and then you've got Parks Grill, Bamboo, and all the things. But what's dinner without a show? You mentioned it. There's some amazing headliners coming here. Everyone from Tracy Morgan, who you mentioned is a great comedian. He actually has a new show coming out on NBC on February 23rd, The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dickens, which is also starring Daniel Radcliffe. You know him from Harry Potter. So it's probably going to be really great to see him take the stage. They also have Teresa Caputo, who I don't know if you know Teresa Caputo.
I don't, but tell me more.
All right. So listen, have you ever wanted to reconnect with a loved one who's no longer with us?
Sure.
Think about it. That's exactly what she does. She's known as the Long Island Medium. She's been on television for years, and she's wowed us for years on screen. So imagine kind of getting that experience up close in person. She walks through the crowd. I mean, I haven't seen her in person. I've only seen clips, but I got to say, it's probably a really cool show to see. So that show is actually coming here to the Excite Center June 6th. And then Funny Man, Wayne Brady. Gotta love him. I grew up watching him on Whose Line Is It Anyway? And so he's going to take the stage. You know, he sings, he dances, he acts. And so that's probably going to be an incredible show. And then happening tonight, actually, do you have plans?
I do have plans.
Darn. Well, you might
My
think
birthday's tomorrow, so I have birthday dinner plans.
Well, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
I don't know if this
I'm
might make you want to. You look 21. So
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Happy early birthday to you. I don't know if this is going to make you want to reconsider your plans, But might want to think about it. Happening tonight at Parks Casino is a night of Southern and classic rock with the Marshall Tucker Band and Jefferson Starship. So Marshall Tucker Band, they actually formed in 1972. They're based out of South Carolina. So they're bringing all that Southern rock and feel-good music. They're known for hits like Can't You See and Heard It in a Love Song. And then they're also going to be joined by Jefferson Starship. They were formed in 1974. They're iconic in San Francisco. And so they're known for famous songs like We Built This City. Everybody, I'm sure, knows that song. And then Saturday, February 7th, Piano Man Generations, a tribute celebration to, get this, Elton John, Billy Joel.
I've seen them in concert. And so I've seen Elton John and Billy Joel at Citizens Bank Park. I've seen them in concert.
Oh,
Fantastic show, and you can relive it here.
Yes.
You can relive it here at Parks Casino in Benson.
That's amazing that you got to see them in concert. That's like
front row.
Are you serious?
So my wife and I were walking up to Citizens Bank Park. You know, we had seats probably, 50th row. And I've heard they do this. So they had like spotters. And this guy just walks up to us and goes, "Excuse me, do you have tickets?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "How are your seats?" I'm like, "They're decent." They're like, "Would you like these seats?"
What?
And we look at them. It just says row A. And literally we were like the front row side. You know, we were like, if the stage is here,
yeah,
we're like right here, front row.
Oh my gosh.
It was, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's fantastic.
That's incredible.
Incredible show. But as far as this here at Parks Casino, obviously you can relive that excitement and some of that great music.
Yeah, and it'll be great for fans like you who've seen them in concert, or for people like me who haven't had the chance to. So it's really catering to all types of audiences. Now, fast forward a little bit, Friday, March 6th, there's the 90s rockers band Candlebox. They're going to be here. Now, what's really cool is I didn't know this, but Candlebox actually announced their farewell tour and album back in 2023.
Okay.
So just 3 years later, they decided, you know what? We're going to do it again. So they're coming out with a new album, and they're going to be hitting tour again. And so they're going to be making a stop here March 6th. And then Saturday, March 14th, we talked about it. Tracy Morgan, he's going to be taking the stage. And he has so much going on right now, so I can only imagine what his set is going to be like. March 20th and March 21st, the hilarious comedian Anthony Rodia is going to be here for 2 nights.
I don't know Anthony. I don't know of Anthony, so tell me about Anthony.
Okay, so he's known for hilarious skits and song parodies, and he's really viral online with his character Uncle Vinny. So I think that's going to be a really good show. I haven't seen him, but he's very popular online, so I'm sure that's going to be a great show. They brought him for 2 nights, so that says a lot, right? And then April 3rd, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame members Cheap Trick are going to take the stage. Have you heard of them?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So they're celebrating over 50 years of performing with the release of their 21st studio album, All Washed Up. That came out November of last year. And so they're going to be heading on tour next year. So they're going to be making a stop here. Again, that's on April 3rd. And then April 18th, Grammy winner Melissa Etheridge. She is coming here as part of her The Rise tour, which a lot of her fans are really looking forward to. It's going to be based on the release of her last album, which came out March 27th, also called The Rise, last year. And then last but not least, May 14th, Jacob Dylan and the Wallflowers. They're here. That's following their 2021 album called Exit Wounds. And that band actually operates with a rotating cast, which is kind of cool.
That's cool.
Maybe you could audition and join them. What do you say?
I don't think so.
Come on. One time for the one time.
No. I can barely do this, and I've done this for a long time.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
So for all these shows, how can we get tickets if you want to see one of these shows?
Absolutely.
Or go to one of the great restaurants?
Easy peasy. All you got to do is go to parkscasino.com, and you can get tickets, make reservations, check out all the dining amenities, and have some fun playing the games.
All right. Well, great to hear. Anye, I say that right? Anye?
Yeah. Anye, like, yay, it's a party, baby.
Yeah, it's a party. It's a party here at Parks Casino. Anye Lachelle, thank you so much for cluing us in on some of the great shows and performances, as well as great dining here at Parks Casino.
It was my pleasure. I hope to see you guys at some of these shows. You too, Jeff.
Absolutely. Yeah, we will do it. And, of course, tonight, we were talking about this earlier, that the Sixers are going to be without this is tough. Paul George, 25-game suspension. And now with the NBA trade deadline coming up, you got to think, okay, are they going to make another move? Here are the Sixers talking about the fact that the deadline's coming up, and could they do something, and can this team make a run? Take a listen.
Obviously, we've been ducking attacks in the last couple of years, so hopefully we'll keep the same thing. I love all the guys that are in here. So think we got a shot. So hopefully, I don't know what I don't know what they're gonna do, but I hope that at least we get a chance to just go out and compete because we got a lot of a good group of guys in this locker room, and vibes are great. So like I said in the past, we've been I guess stuck in the tack. So hopefully we think about improving because I believe we have a chance.
Do you think that this team can compete, like in the East? Like, can you think y'all can contend?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're right there, with the New York Knicks, with the Clevelands. I think we're right in the mix when things are clicking and we're playing the right way and we're firing on all cylinders. We still have the one unguardable player, and that's the trump card. So yeah, absolutely, we got a chance.
What do you think the problem is? Why it doesn't always click?
Not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Some games are just flat. Some games just, it doesn't flow as it should. I wish, I could pinpoint why, but it's the NBA. Some games it's just, it just the ball rolls that way, and our job is to try to be on the same page as much as possible.
So with Paul George suspended, it is now on Joel Embiid, I think, more than ever, and it's a good sign that he's been healthy, but it is on him. And look, against the Kings, he had 37 points, nearly 62% shooting, his ninth 30-plus point game this season, 6 of which have come this month. He's playing better, and he's playing so much better as the season is going on, and over his last 6 games, Embiid is averaging 33.2 points, over 54% shooting from the field. And I think between Embiid and Maxey, these two are going to have to lead this team now. And what these two do, the duo have been doing since really Christmas, since December 26th, they're averaging the most points, the two of them together, the highest scoring duo. So they're going to need more of this now without Paul George. And look, Embiid's playing so well down the stretch. They're going to need others, of course, to contribute to be able to get this team over the hump. And maybe this means Jared McCain, a guy that's forgotten about, will finally get this going. And so, look, McCain's sophomore season has really tested him, the way, he hasn't really ever been tested before. Guy played at Duke, and he's always the star and the best player growing up. But, had the torn meniscus at the end of his rookie year. That was kind of the breaking point. Then the torn thumb ligament delayed the start of this season. Finally returns. He's barely playing. He's not playing well. And you're going, okay, is this guy a bust? What are we going to do with this guy? But Nick Nurse and the coaching staff have really been in his ear as far as staying positive, waiting for your moment. And maybe this whole Paul George situation will lend more time to Jared McCain. I mean, drafted in the first round just a couple years ago. I do believe that this guy, not ready to cut bait with him. Could he be used as trade bait? Maybe, but maybe this is his opportunity that he's been waiting for. And he admitted that, it's been kind of tough, dealing with the injuries, not playing well, not playing a lot. And he's worked on his breathing and his mental health to try to stay in this game. And he talked about that this week, just about what he's been doing to stay ready for that moment. And maybe that moment's about to come. Listen.
I think the mental part for sure. I think just coming off 2 injuries, trying to stay ready in these big moments, and I think that's the toughest part. It's hard to be confident and know when your time is going to come, because you never know. It's super random, and sometimes it comes at bad times when we're down by 50 in a game. But you got to take those opportunities and treat them with like there's no garbage time. So that's what I'm most grateful for, is just being able to stay mentally ready and know that it's going to come.
Every teammate's been like throughout this whole process. I know your whole thing is like giving you grace and stuff, but
they've been amazing, man. I couldn't ask for better teammates. They've been there for me when I was down and when I'm up, and they cheer for me as loud as possible, and I'm just grateful to have them there.
Really, I just keep telling them to have patience and hang in there, and I say to them, like, listen, things will change. I guarantee you. Before too long, something's going to happen or something's going to open up for you. And I think he's done a great job. I think it was really hard for him early. I think he kind of embraced it here the last few weeks. He's been super positive, and whether he's playing or not, which is hard to do coming out of the season he had last season. But I think positivity always pays off.
You know, a lot of it is just staying solid. Like, you can get so caught up in not playing and get down on yourself, but I've never been one to be like that anyways. But it's just been cool to have good reminders from coaches, from teammates, just in like even little things, just in the elevator with coaches talking, just those little brief conversations. Those can help build confidence for, you know, the game coming next. So it's been a great organization. They've been talking to me throughout this whole time, so never upset with anything, and they're always there for me. This past few weeks, I've been really focused on like being really present and being present in the moment and not trying to look in the past, look ahead. And I think more than anything, I was happy with how present I was. It's all focusing on my breath. A lot of my meditation and a lot of the stuff that I focus on is just coming back to the present moment, and whether that's seeing the crowd and trying to hear more of the subtle noises, knowing that, feeling the in-breath and then feeling the hot breath coming out, even just like on like simple things this morning, like it was like feeling the breath coming in through your nostrils and then feeling the heat on your upper lip, like feeling it come out. That just sets you into the present moment, and I think that's what I carried over today. You're always on your own journey, and I knew my time was going to come, and I knew it's going to continue to come. There's going to be ups and downs, but you kind of stay focused on yourself, and it's not in a selfish way, but it's more in a like just worry about yourself in these moments, because it's bigger than you. You can't have too big of an ego in this.
So maybe this is Jared McCain's time to shine right now with Paul George being suspended, and maybe this is the opportunity he'll get some more minutes on the floor to build that confidence. But it is interesting to see and hear just what he's going through mentally and how he's trying to stay in the game with very, very limited time. All right, let's get more on the Sixers. We caught up with Sixers announcer, play-by-play woman Kate Scott. We talked to her just about everything going on with the Sixers. Now, keep in mind, we spoke with her prior to finding out that Paul George was being suspended. This is obviously a surprise to everybody. But we talked to Kate Scott about everything, from the current Sixers team to her amazing career. I mean, she's announcing NBA, NFL, NHL, NCAA Division I football, the Olympics, FIFA World Cup. She's doing it all. And wanted to get her perspective on coming here, taking over for the legendary Mark Zumoff, being the Sixers announcer. And maybe she'll be on the call as the Sixers can finally get over the hump to past that second round. So take a listen to our interview with Kate Scott. A great listen. Sixers play-by-play announcer Kate Scott. Kate, when I watch Sixers games, it always sounds like you're having a great time. You're always smiling, which of course is easier to do when the team is playing well and winning, right?
Yes. It is much easier to do this year, Jeff, than it was last year, but I'm having a blast, as it seems and as it sounds. I'm calling Sixers basketball, Jeff. What is this life?
Yeah, I know, and I think about, like, it's such a dream job, but you grew up in California, right? So I imagine growing up as a kid, do you even know where Philadelphia is, like, as a kid? and what adjustment, if any, did you have to make when you took over for the legendary Mark Zumoff?
Oh my gosh, well, so many adjustments, Jeff. But yes, I did know where Philadelphia was.
Okay.
I was the kid who my classmates were cheating off of when it came to the geography tests. So I did know where it was.
Okay.
There was a cough, there was a sneeze, there was a knock on the table. I'm not proud of that moment in my career, but everybody else in the class was happy. But I knew it was on the other side of the country. And as I said right when I was hired, like I was one of those kids who was actually a huge Allen Iverson fan, because where I grew up in California, I hated all the LA teams. So I hated Kobe Bryant growing up. I hated Shaquille O'Neal. I hated everything about that. I hated Michael Jordan. Like, I was always cheering for whoever was playing against those guys. So when AI came on the scene, I was like, okay, now I'm going to start following the Philadelphia 76ers. So yeah, it was a huge adjustment. The biggest adjustment right now is all this snow, Jeff. What is going on? Are we? I feel like I'm in Tahoe right now.
I know.
I had to buy a snowblower a couple of weeks ago.
Take me to Mexico, Aruba, somewhere warm.
Exactly. Turks and Caicos. Let's get us down to Florida. Yeah, it was a huge adjustment, but I was so excited about it. It's not often you get to kind of restart life kind of just a few years before you turn 40 and find this other side of the country that you'd always heard so many great things about. And now I get to call it home. So I'm so happy to be here. Hope to be here for a long time, Jeff.
Yeah, and I remember when you were hired in the beginning, and so Mark Zumoff, who I've known since high school and I think so highly of, I remember seeing a picture of the two of you. What was the best piece of advice that Mark gave you about, calling Sixers games in Philadelphia? The fan base is incredible. It's so passionate, but I imagine compared to California where it's more laid back. Did you have to adjust to that intensity and what was the advice that Mark gave you?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons that it has seemingly worked, I know not everybody's on board. I never expect anybody to. This is a subjective business, but I have always been this intense person, Jeff. Like I cuss a lot off air. A lot of Philly folks say, "Are you sure you're not from Philly?" Which I take as a huge compliment. But no, I was always almost too intense for a lot of my friends and family back in California. So it does feel like I came home. And, I think the best advice that Zoo gave me, who I'm so looking forward to seeing Zoo tonight, because tonight, obviously, at the arena is a huge throwback 2001 25th anniversary event. And I know Zoo's going to be there emceeing some stuff. So excited about that. It's so simple, but I'm sure you can relate to this, Jeff. I'm sure he told you this as well. You just got to be yourself, right?
Yeah.
They hired you because you're you. They hired me because I'm me. So if I try to be anybody else, it's not going to go well. So just keep being yourself day after day after day and hope that people figure out that, oh, that is actually her. She's actually that excited. She actually smiles that much. She is actually having this much of a good time all the time. All right. I don't know if I like her yet, but I guess that's her. So that was the best advice Zoo gave me. He was like, hey, if they wanted another bald white dude, they had plenty to choose from. That's not who they went with. They went with you. So be you, Kate Scott. And I try to do that each night.
That's great advice. And when you think about your love for Allen Iverson as a kid, I mean, this city just embraced him beyond belief. And he's obviously, from his emotion and his passion and his energy to obviously his ability on the court was just insane. What do you think? Why do you think that team was so special? And when it's recognized tonight, the 25-year anniversary, hard to believe it's been 25 years. What do you think that's going to be like tonight when they honor the 25-year anniversary of the 01 team?
Well, I mean, you said everything right there, Jeff, right? Allen was Philly, even though he wasn't born and raised in Philly. The grit, the tenacity, the intensity, the never say die, and the fact that so many people doubted him because of his size, right? Because he wasn't from here, because he didn't dress the way he was supposed to. Those were all the things. I know it sounds probably a little bit weird, but those are all the things that way out in California that I related to too, right? You can't do this. You shouldn't do this. No one's done this before who looks like you, who sounds like you, who dresses like you. And Allen said, bring it the blank on. You don't think I can do this? Okay, then watch me. And that's what I related to so much as a little girl. And I think that all the Philadelphians that I've talked to who were here in Philly during that time, that's what they've said as well, right? They all saw themselves in Allen and this 2001 team. These guys, were maybe not good enough to play on another team. Somebody didn't like somebody's attitude. Their jump shot wasn't good enough. And all of a sudden this motley crew comes together in Philly and they're like, oh yeah, this is our city. The city that has a chip on its shoulder that was always kind of looked past for other nearby cities that I'm not going to name, right? And I think they came together as that band of misfits with so much incredible talent, obviously a phenomenal coach and a superstar, Allen Iverson. So I can't wait to see what tonight's like. It's been so fun celebrating the 01 team, just having, individuals come back one at a time, but to really have a ton of the guys there tonight is going to be really special, and having Zoo back as well.
Yeah, and obviously, you think about that team and what Philly fell in love with as well as that underdog story we saw with the Eagles in 17. You think back to the 93 Phillies. I mean, I was a kid in 93, and you think about it's kind of the same deal, that underdog story. They get to the World Series, lose to the Blue Jays, but it's still that underdog mentality. What do you think the ovation is going to be like tonight for that 01 team?
I think it's giving me chills right now just thinking about it, Jeff. I think it's going to be one of the most special moments that I have gotten to be a part of so far in South Philly, and I think I'm just really looking forward to looking around at everybody else. I have talked to, again, our producer, Josh Rager, was a little kid growing up in Philly, and he remembers exactly where he was for certain moments of that playoff run. I know Alla does as well. The majority of our crew in the truck, born and raised Philadelphians, so I love when I get to sit down with those guys and gals and say, okay, tell me about your childhood. Who was your favorite player on this team? Where did you used to watch? Was it in your house? Was it with your friends? Like, take me back to those moments. And I know that so many people in the arena that night are going to be having those nostalgic flashbacks. So yeah, I think it's going to be an extremely special moment. I think there's going to be a lot of them throughout the night, and I'm just looking forward to looking around and seeing all the people, having those moments with their friends and family, watching the players. I know it's going to be extremely special for them. I know AI is so happy with where Tyrese Maxey is taking this current team. So yeah, the synergy, the connection, it's happening, and I'm just really fortunate and grateful to bear witness to it.
Yeah, and that group around Allen Iverson all those years, they try to put so many different guys with AI, could not get it going.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the current team, it feels similar in a way. I feel like there's some parallels with Joel Embiid. You're trying to find different combinations from Jimmy Butler to James Harden and Paul George. Now you have the emergence of Tyrese Maxey. Does it feel like this squad this year, does it feel a little bit different? And I do get the sense that because of all the heartbreak the last decade, that everyone's now cautiously optimistic. But what is your
Yes,
perspective? And you may
that is it.
have a different feel for it, but what is your feel on this
No.
team right now?
Yeah, you nailed it. It is cautious optimism, Jeff. I think that's it. And I think we've seen, I know the kids talk about it all the time, and a lot of us grown-ups, roll our eyes a little bit about vibes when it comes to that. But you can see it. I mean, one of the worst games of the season, right? Monday in Charlotte, down by 50 at a certain point in that third quarter. And you're like, what is happening? And then the very next night, come to South Philly and knock off the Bucks and play one of the most complete games of the season. And obviously that huge highlight with Tyrese finding Joe on the alley-oop, and these guys are skipping around like little kids playing basketball. So it always comes down to health, as we've seen throughout Joel Embiid's career, that is. I would love a beer right now, but gonna wait till later on that one. But it goes for every sport, right? We've seen that they can beat everybody in the East so far this year. They've beaten the Knicks a couple of times in New York. They beat Boston in the season opener up in Boston. They've beaten the Toronto Raptors, So the really is wide open this year. The vibes are high with these guys. So we are, and I think fans are rightfully so, cautiously optimistic right now, Jeff. Just got to stay healthy. Just got to keep taking it, the old adage, one game at a time. But yeah, things feel a little bit different this season. So let's not get ahead of ourselves, but let's
knock on wood, right?
Yeah, let's knock on our wood right now.
and with that comes, Joel Embiid. You talk about Joel, obviously the injury history and, obviously everything that has transpired, obviously a lot of bad luck involved with that as well. But when you talk about, and when you talk about Joel, he even admits this year multiple times, he gets emotional being on the court, almost as if he's grateful and thankful even to just play. And, whether it's pain-free or not, but he just seems like a different person. Do you get this sense being around him as much as you are, that things are different? Because from the outside looking in, it certainly feels like things are different for Joel Embiid this year.
Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I'm so glad that he has vocalized that on a number of interviews, Jeff, because I think all of us probably can relate to it. Maybe it's not a sport. Maybe it's somebody we loved. Maybe it's something else we loved. But when it really gets close to being taken away from you, I think that's when you start to realize how much something means to you. And yeah, he had to deal with a lot of really silly, awful, unfortunate injuries earlier in his career, but he was still young enough to understand and know that he could rehab and come back from them. But I think the last 2 years really were oh my goodness, I'm 30. I don't know how my body is going to respond this time. And I think we have really seen that gratefulness and joy the last month, especially, that you can see almost in real time that he has started to feel like himself. And then he starts to make those shots we saw him making so easily a couple of years ago when he ran away with the MVP award, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, I wasn't sure I would ever be able to do these things again. And now I'm doing them. And I'm doing them alongside guys that I'm really enjoying playing with, that I'm here in Philly, the city I love. So for me, somebody who always cheers for the athletes and the human beings, I'm just so happy for Joe, the human being, to be happy again and to be able to, perform the way that he's seen it in his mind, but his body hasn't been up to the task the last couple of seasons. So yeah, I think that's a huge part of the answer before why we are cautiously optimistic, because none of us were sure we would see this Joe again, and we're still cautiously optimistic that this is gonna keep building, because anything could change any moment. But yeah, right now, just so happy for Joel Embiid, the human being.
And it also feels like too is that the fact that it feels like it's becoming or is Tyrese Maxey's team in a sense. That maybe the pressure is off of Joel having to carry all this while being injured left and right. Can you talk to me about the emergence of Tyrese Maxey? He's a late draft pick in the first round, and what he has done, and his work ethic. We hear about his work ethic and we have seen it here and there, but he even talked about the other night, he's in the gym on an off day at 7:00. And we heard in the off season he's sending out text messages to the team. Hey, I'm going to go work out at 6 a.m. on in May, June, July, whatever it is. Who wants to join me? Tell me about Tyrese Maxey's work ethic, what you have seen behind the scenes that has made him the player that he is today.
Yeah, it is definitely Tyrese's team now, Jeff. And I think that's one of the reasons that the team is playing the way that they are this year. Joe wanted that. PG wanted that. Paul said he wanted that when he came here. He said he wanted to, be hopefully the second or third guy, depending on who was having a great night. But this was Joe and Tyrese's team. And I think that the best thing other than VJ Edgecombe to come out of last year's disaster of a season was the fact that Tyrese got thrown into the fire, right? And December and January were really tough because all of a sudden, all the double teams that Joe was seeing for the first 4 years of Tyrese's career, all of a sudden Tyrese was the guy. And he was like, oh my gosh. And it was really hard, right? The shooting percentages, everything went down. We saw the frustration, the losses were piling up. But I think because of that, Tyrese was able to go into this past offseason and say, okay, I know what all of that looks like now. So I'm going to train to be prepared for that next season. Obviously, you can see he's gotten stronger. So I think that is one of the blessings to come out of last year. And gosh, I mean, to see his growth, as you mentioned, I don't like to say really anything good came out of the pandemic, Jeff, but Tyrese Maxey did, because if that March Madness gets played, there is no chance that Tyrese Maxey falls to the Sixers at 21. I'm sure he's a top 10 pick, no doubt about it. But I think the fact that he was able to grow into this role, knowing that he had that work ethic that you mentioned. So many guys like to post their, IG videos in the gym, 6 a.m. Tyrese just goes about his work in the dark. And he reminds me so much of, as you mentioned, out in California before this, covering Stephen Curry at this point in his career with the Warriors. And it took Steph a number of years to become the Stephen Curry he is today at the tail end of his career. Took him 4, 5, 6 years to really blossom into the incredible player and leader that all of us seem to think that's what he was his entire career, but he wasn't, right?
Right.
So the similarities that I see in his climb because of his work ethic, because he truly is that guy who's in the gym every single day. He's not just posting about it on occasion. So you think that's the truth.
Right.
That
Are you talking about Ben Simmons by any chance?
I'm not talking about anybody other than Steph and Tyrese Maxey. I'm just saying there's so many athletes these days, Jeff, in every sport that, post the weightlifting picture, post whatever. Tyrese just does the work every single day. And it's not an act and it's not a story. He is in the gym. And we're seeing that work in his performance this season.
Yeah, and I think you see it too with VJ Edgecombe. You talk about the ability to maybe you don't get Tyrese Maxey if not for the pandemic. Well, if not for last season's disaster, whatever you want to call it, of a season that was just painful, you don't get VJ Edgecombe. And this guy, when you see the two of them together, you just envision the next decade. This arguably, it may be the best backcourt in the NBA with those two.
Yeah. Yeah. That's again. Should we knock on wood right now, Jeff? But
Sure.
that is the hope. That is the hope, and that is also what I flash back to in my years covering Golden State. It wasn't Stephen, Clay, and Draymond and everybody who became the dynasty those first handful of years. It was Steph and Monte Ellis, and okay, that's not working out, and it's Steph and David Lee. Okay, no, we need a big guy, and Andrew Bogut's coming in, and we need a veteran, and Sean Livingston, right? So you have all these pieces and it's finding how the puzzle pieces fit together. So I know a lot of folks in the offseason were, why are we bringing Kyle Lowry back? What's happening? Kyle has been the Tyrese Maxey whisperer so far this year. And Tyrese has talked about that, right? I know some people want the roster spot filled with other people, but Tyrese needs that guy who has been the superstar on a team that has gone all the way to a championship, who also has that connection with the head coach, Nick Nurse, because he was that guy for Nick, who can be the in-between, who knows and has the respect of everybody in the locker room, that if a veteran that maybe a youngster doesn't feel like they can call out, needs to be called out, well, Kyle can do that, right? So there's so many pieces that go into the puzzle. And yeah, I'm hoping that VJ and Tyrese are here together for a number of years, because I see just what you're seeing. But again, I'm trying not to get too excited about it.
No, I get it. And look, truth be told, having him on the team, when we talk about having, this team together, I think that's what they were missing when Joel Embiid was younger, having that Kyle Lowry-esque kind of player. And when you think about with the trade deadline coming up, is there one thing that you think this, outside of health, which is out of everyone's control, is there one thing you would think this team is missing to take them over the top, to get them back to the Eastern Conference Finals, NBA Finals for the first time since 2001 on the night that they're honoring the team? Is there one thing you think is missing that they could use?
I think they could use a little more shooting, Jeff, but I think they have it. The question is, are those guys ready to step up in the second half of the season, right? I think going back to Tuesday's game against Milwaukee, Jared McCain, boy, we missed you, J-Mac. And it was so great to see you come back off the bench and just drill some threes. It could also be Quentin Grimes. Grimes, as we saw at the end of last season, tremendous, obviously, much different makeup of a team. But I think Quentin could be that guy as well, somebody to kind of facilitate the second unit. Is it Jared? Is it Trendon Watford? Trendon showed us flashes at the beginning of the season. So I think we could use a little more shooting and a little more depth, but I think we have all of those things. So I'm just hoping that the guys we have are, if they're still around, who knows what's going to happen, as you mentioned, but are really ready to step into that, because I think core-wise, we've got the stars that we need. We've got the superstar guard in Tyrese Maxey and his Robin in VJ Edgecombe. We've got the center that nobody can guard in Joel Embiid. We've got incredible wing players in Paul and Kelly. So we've got that. You just need a couple of big three-pointers, right? Off the bench in that 1 minute and 30-second burst in the second quarter. You need that big defensive stop when Tyrese has taken his 30-second break. Who's going to provide that? So I think the Sixers do have everything they need. But yeah, we'll see if the executive staff agrees.
Last thing for you. I saw that you are the play-by-play announcer for the Seattle Seahawks preseason games. I don't know if a lot of people in Philly know that, but did you see a Super Bowl team in the preseason or no? Were you shocked at anyone? And by the way, who would you be cheering for if the Eagles were playing the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game? Is that trouble? Would that have been like a nightmare for you?
That would get me in trouble. I like to say it's my East Coast and my West Coast bird. So I would very much be like the team mom, the participation trophy mom in that game.
Giving out oranges.
Everybody plays really well and nobody gets hurt, and I'll have orange slices for everybody at halftime. And let's play the best football game we can. But now, obviously, screw the Patriots. Let's go Seahawks. And similar. There was a lot of special vibes. And again, it's preseason. You don't know, but Mike McDonald, as I think a lot of folks saw after the NFC Championship game, I mean, just freaking, he has it. And the guys love the dude because he came in and said, hey, I know I'm a young coach. I know there's a lot of stuff I don't know. So we're going to figure this out together. And kind of similar to what we were talking about with Allen Iverson, right? Sam Darnold. Oh, the Jets didn't want him. Okay, the Vikings. He leads the Vikings to an incredible record. They don't want him. They pass up on him because of a rookie quarterback they think could be that guy. Ernest Jones, Cooper Kupp, guys who were displaced by the Rams. LA thought those guys were done. So very similar. A lot of these guys who thought they had something left, coupled with a young, incredible guy in Jackson Smith-Njigba, who actually loves Allen Iverson as well. When I told Jackson the preseason, hey, we're bringing the black jerseys back this year, he was like, oh my gosh, can you get me one of those? So there's all these ties. But yeah, a lot of guys who weren't believed in the way that they thought they should have been. And then some superstars like JSN, and a great head coach who knows that it is about, you heard him say, it's about the process. It's not about, the big result. If we stay to ourselves, if we play our game, we don't care what anybody else is doing. So yeah, I'm excited for those guys next weekend.
I saw you, by the way, your voice is on the Madden game. Is that right?
Yes.
Wow.
We're right there. We started in 25. 26 just came out. Actually had a session yesterday for 2 days ago for 27. So yeah, working with Brock Heward in the
that
video
has to
game.
be wild. That has to be like to hear your voice on a Madden video game growing up as a kid, wanting to do this for a living. That has to be crazy.
Yeah, no, I didn't think any of this stuff was ever possible. Now I'm going to be in 3 video games and hopefully a lot more after that because we're just working for the year. It's pretty wild because so many guys, I mean, on our team, Joel plays Madden. And sometimes, Nick Nurse got on the plane the other day and he was like, I'm hearing your voice in my house a lot, Kate. And I was like, sorry, coach, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, my boys have been playing Madden 26 a lot.
Okay.
I hear you. You sound great. So yeah, it's crazy, Jeff. It's crazy awesome. And just thankful for every opportunity that's come my way.
All right, Kate, thank you so much. Great seeing you. Keep up the great work. And hopefully the Sixers make a deep run.
Let's do it. Go Sixers. Thanks for having me on today, Jeff.
All right, great talk with Kate Scott. Again, Sixer star Paul George suspended 25 games for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy. So certainly bad news there. And it just feels like as this team is going in one direction, they take 2 steps back, and that has really been the story during this entire process with Joel Embiid and the Sixers. Man, oh man, we talked about it at the top of the show. Paul George suspended 25 games, and that is a brutal blow to this team that just felt like they were just getting their mojo going. Everything was going in the right direction. All right, that'll do it for us today on Bet Park Saturday from the Sportsbook at Parks Casino in Ben Salem. Thanks to everyone watching on the PHLY Sports YouTube page. For my producer, Julia Hoff, I'm Jeff Skaversky. We'll see you right back here next Saturday on the PHLY Sports YouTube page here in Ben Salem. Have a great day.
We all silly like the mayor.